So here's a quick siege replay. Well, I say quick, sieges always last quite a long time, but this is going to be the first siege I'm going to show in 0.9, and it was quite fun to do. It's definitely the closest siege we've done so far. I'm playing as Gondor. I've got a catapult. I'll just skim over my army comp. I've got a lot of Gondor infantry, a few Gondor spears as the core of my army, and then a few more elite infantry like Fountain Guard and Sons of Argonath. There are a few elite infantry scattered throughout it, but it's mainly mid-tier stuff that I'm bringing. I've got a full stack. My ally is playing as Dol Amroth, and he's got a lot of Etalon halberdiers. He's also got a catapult, of course. Dol Amroth's men-at-arms, Talon Knights, Haven Guard, and some Javelins. I think he's got a slightly more elite infantry than me. I don't think he had a complete full stack, but he was only missing a few slots. And then the defender is Umbar, and he has got a lot of Narduteric. They're very tough to kill. Narduba Wib, the archers. He's got some Royal Guard around here as well, and some Abrazanim Narduzagar. So over here he's got quite a combination of lethal archers with the Castamir's Rangers over there, and some good melee infantry in the Royal Guard and Abrazanim. He's got Belagir halberds in reserve as well, where they are needed. The frame rate starts to tank when the wall starts to go down. He's got some Royal Archers on the wall over here that I'm targeting with my catapult. He's also got some Castamir's Chosen, very, very good infantry, and Harbingers of Castamir, slightly more damaging but slightly less durable. I believe that was him losing some of his Royal Guard archers, so a few of them fell, not too many though, so it wasn't too damaging for him. I'm starting to knock down that wall, and over here we've got more halberds and some crossbow corsairs, so a very, very elite army for Umbar, of course, because you really need it when you're on the defense, but in formation, very difficult to take care of now. There goes the frame rate, and for the time being it's just the bombardment, so I will cut to the point where we start advancing on the city. So the Dol Amroth army is approaching the walls, and several siege towers, all of which being pushed by Dol Amroth men-at-arms. They're a tough unit, very difficult to kill, but ultimately now it would appear that the sword and board units are much more focused around defense. So over on my front, we go back over here quickly, I've got all my siege towers being pushed by, that was a bit of an overshot, being pushed by Axemen of Lasarnak so that they can do damage more quickly. At least that was my thinking, so I've got some standard shock infantry as well. Then again, I suppose Gondor do have a few more options in that respect. They've also got some Lasarnak nobles for a slightly more armoured approach. Let's go back over here though, because Dol Amroth are going to reach the walls first. Up here we have some Narduba Whip that haven't got off the walls yet. They really need to start moving. It does take a while for the units to climb up the siege towers, admittedly, but even so, you want to get through there pretty quick. Oh, he's also lost some Narduba Wib over here from the walls. Bring in some Narduzagar to be the first line of defense. That's interesting. The halberds are moving over as well, to be fair, so looks like they will be the first line of defense, and then the Narduzagar will be the ones to do the damage. The Narduteric will be very, very tough to kill. The Dol Amroth men-at-arms will not make a lot of ground against these guys in any hurry. Even if they themselves don't do a lot of damage. I believe they are armor piercing there. Or at least good versus armor. Over here I'm going to have a real problem getting through this breach with the Castamir units everywhere. There are some Royal Archers firing. There have been some changes made to the towers now, and each individual arrow they fire does less damage, but they fire more of them. So, it's something worth considering as you attack. It makes playing as the elves on the attack very, very difficult. Corsair Blackguards as well, that's going to be a problem for me. Most of my units rely on their armour, so a unit like this shredding through them is not going to be good. There's also several halberdiers. The Harbingers of Castamir are the unit that I'm really worried about, to be fair. They are now getting up the siege towers over here. Oh, bit of a frame drop there. But yes, the Dol Amroth men-at-arms, if they're allowed to get established on a blank wall like this. Thank you, announcer. On a blank wall like this, if the Dol Amroth men-at-arms can get established, they will hold for a while, even if they won't get too many kills against the likes of infantry that Umbar have. The Narduzagar will cleave through them pretty quickly, you'd expect. Edhalond halberdiers going in first into this breach, which is good. The Edhalond are better than the Belagir, but the Narduzagar are a bit of a problem there. They're moving in. They are being allowed to get established on this wall. The towers will do a bit of damage, but they will stop firing. Well, this one's been destroyed, but they will stop firing if the walls are allowed to be captured. Over here we have our first melee fight. Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms against the Narduteric. The Narduteric should win this. Armor piercing and very, very difficult to kill. The Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms, they're difficult to kill, but they don't really have the offensive capabilities that you need. Though they will at least make a gap for some of the... There's my battle now. They do at least have the ability to clear a spot on the wall for some of the more elite infantry to go in. Let's go back to my front. Oh, overshot it again. So over here, the gate is now breached. The Corsair Blackguards are a bit of a problem there. I am trying to destroy some of the towers. You can see the towers absolutely shredding through some of the infantry. Like, they're getting a lot of hits off. So I'm going to charge in the Gondor infantry first to try and absorb the Corsair Blackguards fight, and then I'm going to send in both my units of Fountain Guard through the gates, hopefully. Clear a spot there. The Corsair Blackguards are pretty good in melee, so the Gondor infantry is going to be in a bit of a tight spot. Axemen of Lasarnak up on the walls. I have captured some of their walls, but not all of them. His Royal Archers, all of them didn't manage to get away from my Axemen, so... Although there is a bit of a strange thing where they kind of stop halfway up the tower, but I'm having to micro them, but it's fine. My Axemen are allowed to get established up on these walls as well, which is good for me, because I don't expect them to survive as such, I just want them to do damage. Over here, the Halberdiers are engaging the Narduzagar, and this is a good engagement for them. The archers are going to do quite a lot of damage, but they are armoured, so they will hold up pretty well. Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms. Well, that balance of power isn't very much in our favour. But we have managed to make the initial engagements quite favourable. These Halberdiers are facing the wrong way, so that's a bit of a problem for them. These Edhelond Halberdiers have done very well so far. This engagement over here is not great for the Narduzagar. They're being poked to death. And with the Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms backing them up, they have established their position. Some sort of siege weaponry would be ideal at this point, or the javelins that he had over by me. My ally's catapult is in position as well. Up on the walls, though, they are losing. And now some Royal Guard are going over to try and help secure the walls. Meanwhile, over here, he's sending up his Harbingers of Castamere onto the walls to engage my Axemen. This is a battle that my Axemen will lose very handily. But I've got some archers that are going up here, so I can place them behind my Axemen and hopefully fire down into the Castamere's Chosen. Trying to send in some Gondor infantry to sort of occupy the Castamere's Chosen so they don't reinforce anywhere like this part over here. The Corsair's Blackguard's victory does seem certain, but that's because there is the unit of Gondor infantry, heavily depleted Gondor infantry, that is at the front. The Belagir Halberds are fighting. The Fountain Guard will be able to handily beat both of these units if it's allowed to go on, but they will take quite a long time doing it, so... And they will take some casualties from the towers. I'm still firing at the towers as well, trying to clear as many of them as I can. Gondor infantry over here, fighting against the Harbingers of Castamere. This is a fight that they absolutely love, because of course they will do tons of damage. The Gondor infantry, very much like the Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms, pretty tough to kill, but, well, not against a unit like the Harbingers, but they won't do a lot of damage in return. There goes a tower. I'm waiting in the background there with several more units to go up the towers. Over here, I went down off the walls because no one was engaging me, and engaged his halberds with a unit of my Axemen of Lasarnak. They're doing their work. Going back over to the other front. Over here they're still struggling a bit to contain the Edhelond Halberdiers. There's a real mouthful. Abrazanim. He's got some Narduba Whip coming in as well. This is a nice blob though, so we will be able to use his archers quite efficiently. He is also retreating from this area though, which is wise, because he was losing pretty heavily. This unit of Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms has been absolutely annihilated by the Narduteric, and they aren't dying in a hurry. Looks like some Talon Knights. The Talon Knights will be a great deal better at dealing with the Narduteric. But even so, this area over here is... The Narduteric are doing their job well, but he is struggling here. There is a breach in the defences. These Belagir Halberds have finally got themselves set up, but they are losing the fight. They're going to need the towers and the friendly archers to do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. Over here, my Axemen are trying to hold back the Harbingers of Castamere, while my archers try and get themselves set up on this wall. These two units of Gondor infantry will get themselves smashed by the Castamere's Chosen, but that's fine. I didn't really get a favourable engagement, but no matter. Over here, the Corsair Blackguards are holding pretty well in melee. It's kind of a dead heat over here for the moment, although the Fountain Guard will eventually start to make their presence felt. Meanwhile, I've got some Axemen of Lasarnak down here now. Well, some Lasarnak nobles. I've sent them up through this tower over here and sent them down here, so hopefully these halberds will fall, and then I will be able to flank the gate, the defense force at the gate. And then that will do. And I've also sent some Axemen of Lasarnak up here to try and take on the Harbingers of Castamere, but they too are not doing very well, which is a bit of a shame. I thought that they would do a little better than they are doing, but as it turns out, Harbingers of Castamere, very, very tough. I've got more units of Gondor infantry to send up here, more to keep the Harbingers busy, because they are the most dangerous unit, so that I can win on other fronts. Meanwhile, my archers are firing into the backs of the Corsair Blackguards because it's the only unit I could really get a nice shot on. I could have also started shooting the Harbingers, but they're really too heavily armoured to make it worth it. Sending over some spears, setting them up in front of this wall so they can't charge out his Castamere's Chosen and start routing my units. Sons of Argonath waiting, they're my most elite infantry. And a unit of Gondor infantry as well. I think I'm going to send them in through the gate. What's going on up here? Gondor archers. Yeah, those Belagir halberds are dying in a hurry. Sending up some winged swordsmen, and actually I've come just at the right time, I think. Well, kind of. That is some weirdness. I had a unit of Gondorian winged swordsmen, very good on the attack. I didn't expect them to beat the Harbingers of Castamere. But pretty soon, an unfortunate event will happen to me. If we look here. Yeah. There goes the siege tower. Most of my winged swordsmen died in there, as you can tell. So yes, the arrow towers will keep shooting the siege towers now, and that means that you have essentially a more limited time to use your siege towers if the arrow towers are making their presence felt. So the towers are something that I would very much say is worth destroying now. And I would argue that it's worth bringing more than one piece of siege equipment just to deal with the towers when you're on the attack, because it is a real boon for the defenders if their towers are allowed to attack your men, because I'm losing a lot of soldiers just trying to take the walls. While over here I am shooting into the sides of these Harbingers of Castamere. Some of them have died. About 7 or 8 of them have been killed by a whole unit of Axemen of Lasarnak nobles, I should say, and Gondor infantry. Sending up more Gondor infantry to occupy them. I'm getting the surround off now. Those Belagir halberds fell, and the Lasarnak nobles are fighting. Let's go back over to the Dol Amroth side. Oh, again I overshot. He's shooting his catapult in to the crossbow corsairs. Crossbow corsairs don't really have a super good line of sight, but it is now more of a line battle, and the Edelon halberdiers have honestly been, as the attackers, our best unit so far. They've done a lot of heavy lifting for us. The Narduzagar, not really designed to do this, but the arrows will do some damage to the halberdiers. No shields, of course. These Royal Guard, excuse me, these Royal Guard are going to do very well against the Dol Amroth men-at-arms, very well armoured, hit points. Narduba Wib, he's got some archers. This front over here is a very mixed bag. The Narduturik have really done some heavy lifting for the defenders. The Talon Knights' victory does still seem like a possibility, but they won't be allowed an easy time of it by the Narduturik, and the Narduturik won't rout either. But now the Javies come in, and the Javelins should be... Well, those Castamere's Rangers are doing well, but the Javelins should allow him to gain more of a foothold and hopefully deal with some of these Narduturik. He's firing at this unit over here. Catapults coming in through the gate as well. Haven Guard. But he has now committed all of his men, to be fair, so I would hope that he would be winning, and he is. Meanwhile, if we go back over to my front, I'm having a little bit less luck. I am now breaking through the gate, it must be said, with my Fountain Guard and my surround from my Lasarnak nobles, but on the walls I'm really struggling to deal with his more elite units. His Harbingers are a real problem for me. My Gondor infantry cannot make a dent in them. Trying to get another surround off on the Blackguards. Got my Spearmen in shield wall, preventing them from trying to surround me. Over here I'm going to struggle as well. The Harbingers of Castamere have ripped through my Axemen of Lasarnak, and my, to be fair, only 10 or so winged swordsmen managed to get up there, so they never really got a chance to shine. Got my catapult crew. We'll probably send them in just as fodder. Gondor archers still firing into the sides of the Harbingers. They are having an effect as well, so that's worth saying. 6 more have perished. There's the enemy general in the Royal Guard unit over fighting the Dol Amroth men-at-arms. Doesn't really matter, of course, for the defenders because of the infinite morale thing. Now the Castamir's Chosen. This is a unit. These are units that I didn't want to get free, but unfortunately are. They should defeat my Lasarnak nobles, but the Lasarnak nobles will make their presence more felt against this kind of unit. I don't have many Fountain Guards left. They took some heavy losses from the towers. Got some Gondor infantry going in. I'm setting up my spearmen inside the walls now in Spear Wall. Well, so it's Shield Wall, I should say. They will hold for quite a while, but they will still lose very, very handily to Castamir's Chosen, of course. These Gondor archers, firing point blank into the Harbingers. As soon as they go into melee, though, that's when the trouble will begin. Sending my Sons of Argonath in, so that means all of my stuff is now committed. And all of my allies' stuff is committed. Haven Guard going up against the Naaru Royal Guard. And the Haven Guard should win this, but the Royal Guard will not be killed easily. They're one of the strongest units Umbar can field. The Narduteric is still fighting, although defeat now does seem certain. They're very tired, and they're up against eager, well, still tired Talon Knights, so it's been a brutal fight up on these walls. The Narduteric have been a very, very strong unit. Just very tough to kill, but Dol Amroth are starting to overrun the defenders. Over here, the Etalon Halberdiers are still there. It's a real mouthful, that unit name. But yeah, he's starting to run low on units over on the Dol Amroth front. He needs to get his elite units over by me freed up. Because honestly, I don't have all that much in terms of men left. At least men that can deal with the type of units that the Castamir's Chosen are. Still a nice close-up fight here. The shield wall will hold, but they're not going to get a lot of kills at all against the Castamir's Chosen. Meanwhile, my most elite unit, the Sons of Argonath, going up against Abrazanim Narduzagar, very depleted unit, and Narduba Wib. They're going to very easily win that engagement. Harbingers of Castamir going to rip their way through a Gondorian archer unit. Over here, my archers still fighting, but all of this damage has been done by the towers, and they're still taking a beating. The Harbingers are still over here, over 60 men in the unit, and I don't think I have any more reserves to put up there, so this unit of Gondor infantry that is wavering is the only one left. I've sent 3 units of Gondor infantry and a unit of Lasarnak nobles on the wall to deal with those Harbingers, and they've only lost, well, they've lost just over 10 men, close to 20. Crossbow Corsairs, on the other hand, are now shooting into the back, so I think what he's trying to do is deal with my army in its entirety, and then with whatever survivors he has, try and engage Dol Amroth, which is probably a good way of doing things. My army's looking a bit more haggard. The Sons of Argonath are really the only threat I have left. Meanwhile, on this front, his Naaru Royal Guard and Royal Archers are really putting up a fight against the Haven Guard. These Halberdiers are just sort of standing there, trying to deal with the stragglers over here, which really consist of only the Narduteric, and he has now surrounded them. He's got Halberdiers on the walls and javelins. He's really just trying to deal with them before moving on. I don't blame him. He's taken some decent losses to the Narduteric. They've held the line extremely well. Javies. While over here, Sons of Argonath, awesome looking unit. My General's Bodyguard. They aren't armor piercing, I don't think. I'll have to check that. I'm pretty sure there was something about them I noticed that detracted from their overall awesomeness, but nonetheless they will still beat this unit of Harbingers of Castamir that have been depleted. These spears, still holding, but considerably weaker than they were, basically gotten no kills on the Castamir's Chosen. The elite units are very, very strong indeed. Over here, my gate force has been pretty much wrapped up by the Crossbow Corsairs and the Castamir's Chosen, but they've done their job. Victory is still within our reach. Percentages killed are still very close, although slightly in our favour now. It was pretty brutally in the enemy's favour at one point, mainly because of the heavy losses I've sustained, it must be said. These Harbingers of Castamere are just tearing their way through my men, and as soon as they get free, bad tidings for these archers. Speaking of bad tidings for archers, we go back over here. This unit of archers was down to 10 before my Sons of Argonath got up onto the walls and engaged the Harbingers. Very brutal indeed. These spears will still hold, but defeat does seem certain for them. He has managed to free up, well, he will soon manage to free up some Castamere's Chosen. More siege towers destroyed. Bringing over some marines, engaging the crossbow corsairs in melee. So Dol Amroth are now getting into the heart of the city. And this is... it's not looking good for the defender at this point. He's got a lot of... well, Dol Amroth are actually more depleted than it first looked, mainly because of the towers constantly shooting them. The Haven Guard still fighting their way through the Royal Guard and Royal Archers. They put up a real fight. Again, I think that's mainly because of the towers doing a lot of damage to the Haven Guard. Halberdiers. Over here, the Narduteric have finally started to completely fall. But they were really the stars of the show for the defenders, I think, in addition to the Harbingers of Castamere on my front. Very, very strong performance by them. There's the Marines, but he's going to have to deal with Castamere's Chosen in melee now that my force at the gate was completely destroyed. The Corsair Blackguards, some of them are still alive. Unbelievably, I didn't notice that during the fight. Gondor Archers trying to shoot point blank, they'll probably get more damage done that way. The unit of Gondor Infantry routing. Can't say I blame them. Over here the shield wall is starting to crumble. In a place anyway. Castamere's Chosen. I think they have got a couple of kills, but honestly nowhere near enough.
Our general lies slain upon the battlefield.
Unfortunate for me, but not the end of the world. Going up against Harbingers, that was always a danger. Sons of Argonath, victory still seems certain. And the problem that the enemy has now is, even if he focuses fully on me, trying to engage Dol Amroth, this is a unit that won't fall easily. So it's starting to look like he doesn't have enough men to get the job done. We have a gentleman's agreement not to go for the town centre if there's still a fight to be had. These Castamere's Chosen, defeat seems certain for them. There just isn't enough of them anymore. Edhelond Halberdiers. He's trying to get these Marines out of melee so he can use their javelins. But he should have just kept them in, to be honest with you. They were winning, and now the balance of forces is evenly matched because the numbers are no longer there.
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
Look at the death. These Gondor Spearmen are starting to fall by the wayside pretty quickly now, but the Spear Wall held out against a much superior unit for quite a long time, in addition to being shot by these damned towers. Sons of Argonath still taking arrow fire, but the Harbingers of Castamere on this wall about to die. On this wall though, they're very much still winning against the very depleted archers, and soon they're going to be free to try and engage the Dol Amroth army, but engaging the Dol Amroth army is going to be a problem now. The Halberdiers very much in play, the Castamere's Chosen not able to make their presence felt. Trying to retreat here. I hope that, well, he's trying to go for the crossbow corsairs. More Halberdiers. I'd say the Edhelond Halberdiers were one of the most important units we fielded. The initial defence put up by the defender over here was honestly probably where he lost the battle, simply because the Edhelond Halberdiers were able to kill so many Narduzagar and Belagir halberds too easily, and it allowed the Dol Amroth army to really pour in before the defender could afford that to happen. The Royal Guard are still fighting the Haven Guard though. The Haven Guard have really taken some losses from the towers. And there you see the crossbow corsairs falling. I do believe we'll lose control of the town centre as part of that gentleman's agreement. There goes my spears. Falling by the wayside entirely. My Sons of Argonath winning pretty effectively. And it's very much looking now like the defender simply doesn't have the men to deal with this. Certainly not the men in the right positions. The Harbingers of Castamere are a dangerous unit, but they alone will not win them the battle. A couple of Corsair Blackguards still firing their missiles, routing Gondor infantry running all over the place, like headless chickens. One unit of Castamere's Chosen, one unit of Harbingers of Castamere. Very heavily depleted unit of Blackguards is all they have left. So it's not looking good. These Harbingers, though. Very devastating unit. I suppose you'd call them shock infantry. Mainly because they don't have a big two-hander, but they are focused entirely around attack. With those dual sabres. Those Belfalas Marines pull out little axes. They will not beat the Harbingers of Castamere in melee, though, it must be said. The Halberdiers in this sort of number, though, they'll do better in a flat engagement. I don't know if they'd win, but with that sort of numbers, I think the battle is already concluded. Battle is draining our men. Sons of Argonath still fighting Harbingers of Castamere. The towers really do a number on your men in an offensive siege now. It's something you really have to either prepare for or destroy the towers. Halberdiers. Player admitted defeat, and I don't blame him. He only had 2 units left against the full might of Dol Amroth. It wasn't going to be enough. So let's have a look. Obviously I didn't do too well. Looking at my results. Looking at my results, we got the Sons of Argonath doing pretty well. The Sarnak Nobles, the one that flanked those halberds, and then the Gate, my best unit. But other than that, my army took a real beating, as you can tell. Very difficult to effectively assault an enemy fort now, but it can be done. Even though my Gondorian winged swordsman fell off the tower, they still got 6 kills, and that was on Harbingers of Castamere. So I wish it probably would have been even less close if they managed to get up the tower and make their presence felt. But yeah, this is the sort of thing you can expect from a siege now if you're on the attack. Be prepared to take a lot of casualties, and that's what makes it so difficult to play as the elves. It was a good siege though, it was relatively close. Every other siege we've had so far has been very one-sided. Mostly towards the defender as well, so it goes to show how strong being a defender can be, well, how strong a position you are as the defender now with these towers. If you can defend the walls effectively, you're going to have a good time as the defender. But that is a quick siege. The first siege that I've shown so far, and, you know, more videos to come, etc, etc. And I hope you've enjoyed.